games in full, but they were just a great partnership. And part of it was that, man, one of the things that I honestly, I think it's because I was so little, but my God, Scottie Pippen, such a good passer. My goodness, could he see those angles? I mean, you see these highlights, but he was such a good passer. And then you look back, Jason, I would really say if you look back at that season that Pippen has after Jordan leaves, you mentioned that 93 team, the year after. Let me just read you Pippen's stat line. 22 points a game, 6 assists a game, 9 rebounds a game, shot 32% on threes, 49% overall, and 3 steals a game and a block a game. I mean, those are just insane numbers. I mean, he was just, I mean, he was a man possessed, and he became an even better passer really as his career went along. I feel like, I mean, you look at some of these years, I mean, he was just a guy who could, I mean, he could really run an offense. I mean, those are Kobe Bryant-esque numbers in terms of what he's averaging for assists. I mean, he was a guy who you could really run your offense through. And I think that's what made them such a good pair, Jason, is that he was so good at finding Jordan. And you know, one of the things with Jordan is that his game was so multifaceted, and so was Pippen's, and it allowed them to kind of play off each other because you mentioned some of the Warriors, but one of the things with a guy like a Klay Thompson is, you know, what's the biggest weakness of Klay Thompson's game? It's probably being creative with the ball. And Steph Curry kind of fills that. That's his like best trait. And you think about that, and that's sort of what I think Pippen and Jordan did. You know, the very few weaknesses that Pippen has in his game, Jordan really filled. And that just let him be the best version of himself on that team, which I think is awesome. And again, I don't want this to become the Scottie Pippen show, Jason, but I really do feel like one of the things that this made me realize is how underrated Scottie Pippen is historically. And how we probably just don't appreciate enough just how good he was, because he was asked to do a lot and he was asked to sacrifice a lot. Honestly, I mean, on this team, he had to kind of take a back seat very often. So I think he deserves a ton of credit.
No, this is good because we're giving Scotty a better portrayal than The Last Dance did. But yeah, I mean, as far as everybody else, you know, it really just showed like how tough it was to play with him. And I think that was actually the start of the Mamba mentality, because you said you see Kobe took a lot of what he brought to the game from Michael, from studying Michael, and just seeing how Kobe elicited a lot of those same traits in practice and in games, the whole Smush Parker incident. And I think that really started with Michael. You know, I think Mamba was born because Michael Jordan was the way that he was. You can't hate him for it. You don't have to love him for it, but you have to respect it. So I guess the final question here as we wind down is, how does Michael look after 8 episodes? Because all I'm going to say is I'm going to sum it up with 3 words. Poor LeBradford Smith.
Can you please, you can't stop there. Tell me your thoughts on the LeBradford Smith story. And I mean, for those of you who haven't watched, LeBradford Smith is a rookie coming into the league, playing for the Bullets, I believe, and he has a great game, lights up Jordan, allegedly says to Jordan, "Nice game, Mike," as he leaves. Jordan lights him up, pretty much matches his point total in the first half of the next game, and then years later is asked about it and says, "Yeah, he didn't say anything to me after all." I mean, give me your thoughts on that, Jason.
So this is where Michael's greatness comes from, right? Because no one will ever really know for sure whether or not LeBradford Smith said "good game, Mike," right? That could have been Michael Jordan painting that picture in his head as motivation to go out the next night. And how interesting is it that they played back-to-back home and home? So like right after the game, they were in Chicago. They had to fly to D.C., play each other the very next night. And that basically just gave Michael Jordan short turnaround time and was able to go out and just light him up. And I feel bad for the dude, but on the same token, I'm impressed that he was able to do that. I know it was probably catching the Bulls on an off night, but for a no-name player during that time to go out and do that to Michael Jordan Granted, no one remembers it because the next night he was utterly obliterated. But it's a cool story. If you're LeBradford Smith, right, you want to tell your grandkids one day, like, yo, I lit up Michael Jordan, and then the next night he lit me up. And not many people could say they lit up Michael Jordan.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, my takeaway is twofold. One, I mean, I just I love his competitiveness. I love how this is just who he is. There's no BS here. Like, this is just him. The other thing was I did get a sense of the Pippen thing really gave me a different perspective on this that I'd never really thought about, which is how much Jordan ultimately he demanded a lot, but he took so much pressure off these guys. And I think one of the things you hear about in basketball a lot is this idea of making other guys better, right? This is one of the big knocks that you hear. He doesn't really make guys better. And it was actually a knock on Jordan early in his career. But one of the things that I really felt watching these last couple episodes is how much Jordan, both on and off the court, made everyone's lives easier. He made the roles for these guys easier. What does Dennis Rodman have to do, Jason, when he's on this team? Literally rebound the ball, pass it up. That's it. You don't have to do anything else, Dennis. We're not asking you to get offense. We're not asking you to do anything. Scottie, what do you need to do? You need to stand over here. You shoot it if you're open. Otherwise, you drive the lane because they're doubling Michael, and then you make the pass if you need to. It's simple, easy basketball. And when Pippen has to go and do it himself, he wants to be the guy. He wants all this stuff. All that's simplified when Jordan's out there. Everything's easy because what are you doing? Give it to Michael. He'll take care of it. And he does. And that's the thing. He takes care of it. And if he doesn't, he takes it on his shoulders. When they lose to the Magic, it's, man, did Michael, mess up? Oh, here's Nick Anderson coming over to say maybe he doesn't have it anymore. All this stuff. And it gave me an appreciation for the fact that, a lot of this Mamba mentality, I'm going to air quote, Mamba mentality, I'd always thought was kind of like nonsense. But there's a point at which him doing this takes the pressure off the other guys, Jason, and it lets them just do their job, to use a patriotism. But it just lets them just fill in a role. They don't have to do as much. They're not asked to do more than they're capable of. And my takeaway of that is that I actually found myself appreciating Jordan more after this as both a player and as a leader.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. So much has happened, right? These first 8 episodes, and we only have one night left, right? We have 2 parts. So I'm hoping they finish strong. We all know what it's going to end with, the shot. But, I mean, what are your expectations heading into Sunday? I know we've had our complaints about the order and how it's sometimes disorganized, but you really see some raw footage, some uncut stuff that we don't have access to in today's NBA, and it's truly something special. Ever thought of this idea to put a camera crew in that locker room? Genius. But, I mean, what are your expectations going into Sunday?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'm just going to enjoy it, to be honest. So I don't have many expectations, but I mean, I guess the one thing I will say, I'm going to say, instead of my expectations, as I don't have any, Jason, I'm going to take this and say one of my takeaways from all this, which is how silly some of this LeBron Jordan greatest debate is, because I find that it's really difficult to compare these eras. I kept trying to think of what's the top 10? Who's better? Is it LeBron? Is it Jordan? All this stuff. And the more I've really thought about it, the more I've decided it's impossible to really compare these eras. When Jordan grew up, there was no three-point line, Jason. And now a player who can't shoot a three is not playing unless they're a center, pretty much. And that's just the way that the game has changed. And the way that you play offense, all these things going back and forth, it's a completely different game. And we can really only judge it within the eras and against the era you play in. And it really gave me an appreciation for the way that basketball was played in the 90s. And that was great because I have to admit, I really had forgotten in a lot of ways the way that basketball used to be played when we were kids in the NBA, and it was so cool. I don't think it's better or worse. It's just different. And it was really cool to get to see it again in these clips and be reminded of these amazing games that I remember when I was like this tall. Um, it's just super cool. And that's something I'm really excited about. So I don't have any expectations, but it's been awesome to watch it. And I'm excited to get 2 more episodes of it.
We'll have one more breakdown to go this next Tuesday. But before we head out for the evening, I just have to give a quick shout out to our friends at Bleacher Report because Game of Zones is back. Now, if you're like Ben and I, and you're both a Game of Thrones and a basketball fan, you will not be disappointed. It's the final season, season 7, so very similar to Game of Thrones. And I'm not going to spoil it because I know, Ben, you didn't see it yet, but I'm going to give you homework, Ben. Watch it because I think part 3, there's only 4, is coming out the 14th, so this coming Thursday, and then it'll just be 1. And it is so good. And it's what we need right now while we're in quarantine. Because once The Last Dance ends, if there's no date for workouts and stuff to come back, I mean, we're going to really hit a lull. And we're kind of hoping to avoid that. So check out Game of Zones. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think there's some good debate coming out of this Last Dance thing, Jason, but it has been, man, it is, I have to say, I don't know about you, but it has exceeded all of my expectations. It really has. And I'm so excited to watch the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, especially for you as a lifelong Bulls fan, just kind of seeing this play out. Like, if it was like the Nets or another team, it'd be awesome too, just because I love that kind of behind the scenes stuff, but I'm sure it's extra enjoyable for you. So, Ben, do you and your new haircut have anything else for the people before we let them go?
Should we go out on a break or on a cackle? Should we go out on one of the Jordan laughs as we go, or do you want to go? You want to just say break?
I think we should go out on a brackle. We'll do a little bit of both. We'll break and we'll cackle because I have to tell the people if they like what they hear, please subscribe, rate, and review.
Am I supposed to say 5 stars? I don't know if we're at 5 stars yet. Have we reached here in Pennsylvania? It's going to yellow in Pittsburgh as of this Friday. Are we safe to ask for 5 stars, Jason?
You know what? We're not, in the New York, New Jersey area, but feel free. Ask for stars, Ben. I know it helps you sleep better.
If you guys feel like it, if you're feeling generous in your heart of hearts, feel free to give us 5 stars. I'm not going to ask for it because that would be rude.
Well, just know that the type of intensity that Ben and I bring to this podcast, we just expect everyone around us to match that intensity. And that's all I can ask for.
Because I wouldn't ask any of you to do anything that I wouldn't do, Jason. And with that, we'll talk to you next week.
Break.